And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, April 21st. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. And this is the final Monday of myself hosting a GSMC sports podcast. So, yes, this is the final week of me hosting shows. We are going to go out with a bang. Got the NFL draft this week. Going to cover that a lot. We'll cover it a little bit later in the show. But yes, this is the final week. So we're going to enjoy it, and it's going to go very fast. So let's get into what we are going to discuss today. So we are going to start off the show. We're going to recap all of the NBA action from over the weekend, including the play-in games. That'll be a little later in the show. I'll pair that up with the other Game 1 games. But we'll start off, we'll talk about the Lakers and their loss to the Timberwolves. Are they in trouble after that loss, losing 117-95? So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Knicks and their comeback win against the Pistons. Like I said, we'll get into the other NBA action from over the weekend, the other Game 1s around the NBA, and we'll briefly talk about the play-ins, like I said. We'll talk about the 49ers a little bit. Would their Super Bowl window officially close if they give Brock Purdy a massive contract extension? And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about what teams need to ace their draft on Thursday, starting on Thursday. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Lakers and their loss to the Timberwolves. So the Lakers, like I said, they lost 117-95. Anthony Edwards, a very good game for the Timberwolves. And the Lakers talked a lot about this at the end of the game. J.J. Redick talked about it. LeBron talked about it. They felt like they were prepared for the game, but they felt like they were outmatched physically by the Timberwolves. And there was really never a point in the game where you thought the Lakers were going to come back. I mean, at certain points during the game, it looked like they started to make a run, but ultimately they ended up losing. For the Lakers, Luka had the best game out of everybody. He had 37 points, went 12 of 22, went 5 or 10 from 3, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. LeBron only had 19 points. Austin Reeves, not a great shooting night. He had 16 points, but he was 5 of 13 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3. And there really wasn't any contributions from anybody off the bench for the Lakers. Jackson Hayes, 1 point, 3 rebounds, was 0 for 2 from the field. And that 1 point was from the free throw line. Rui Hachimura had 9 points. And the Timberwolves, now the Lakers outscored the Timberwolves in the first quarter. But from then on, the Timberwolves outscored the Lakers, in every single quarter. They scored 38 points in the second quarter, 35 points in the third quarter, and then they outscored the Lakers 23-17 in the fourth quarter. And looking at their side of things, Anthony Edwards, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, was 8 of 22 from the field. Jaden McDaniels had a good game, 11 of 13 shooting, 25 points, went 3 of 3 from the three-point line. Julius Randle, he had 16 points. Naz Reid off the bench had 23 points. And, again, that's the difference. Lakers, really didn't get any contributions from anybody off the bench. Dante DiVincenzo went 4 of 9 from the field. He finished with 9 points. And, you look at the comparisons for both teams. And, yeah, the Timberwolves shot 51% from the field. Lakers shot just under 40%. and they shot 50% from the 3-point line. Lakers shot 36.6%. They were out rebounded. Turnovers. Timberwolves got 18 points off of turnovers to the Lakers 9. And they also had 25 fast break points to the Lakers 6. So they were really scoring at will. And again, they have the size advantage against the Lakers. And that was, I would say one of my concerns going into the game. The Lakers don't have, that big man on this team. And I was saying, they got to rely on LeBron James and Luka to have these big games. And, Luka did have a big game, but, it still didn't matter. I do think Austin Reeves will have better games in this series, because he's that third option, on this team. And, he had some big games down the stretch for the Lakers. And I expect him to have one of those type of games in this series. And I expect LeBron to, finish with more than 19 points. This series is not over by any means. But I didn't like what I saw in game 1. I didn't. And this Timberwolves team, look, it's a little bit different. There's no Karl Anthony Towns. But this is a team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year. And Luka knows a thing or two about that because he's the one that knocked them off in the Western Conference Finals last year with his former team, the Dallas Mavericks, who we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. And their play-in game that they ended up getting eliminated in. Like, this is a good Timberwolves team. They're well coached, and they got some good young players on that team with some veterans as well. The Lakers got their hands full. And I talked about Austin Reeves and how he needs to be better. And obviously, LeBron and Luka are going to get their numbers. But who's going to be that other guy that's going to step up besides those three? Because they need more contributions. And, if they don't get that... Now, I don't expect the Timberwolves to shoot, 50% from 3. That's not going to happen every single time. Every single time. Now, if it does, then the Lakers are really in trouble. But this is a big game. This is a big game, too, coming up. Because, if the Lakers go down 0-2, then you really have to start to worry. Because obviously, you want to win game 1, especially when you're on your home court. Because now, you kind of gave home court advantage now to the Timberwolves. Now, I don't expect the Timberwolves to, let's say the Lakers win game 2 tomorrow night. I don't expect the Timberwolves to go back to Minnesota and win 3 straight. I think this is going to be a close series. But they'll make adjustments, and we'll see how they come out tomorrow. But that was not a good performance by the Lakers. And the Timberwolves are legit. This Western Conference, and we'll talk more about some of the other series as well, but other than maybe like the Thunder Grizzly series, all these series in the Western Conference, it could go either way. That's how loaded this conference is. So, if the Timberwolves win this series, I don't think, people are going to be overly surprised by this. Because, again, they made the Western Conference Finals last year. This is a good team. This is a very good team. But let me know what you guys think, though, about this game from the other night. What are your thoughts on how it went out or how it went down? It's a big game, too, coming up tomorrow night. Because I do think that if the Lakers, if it's a similar performance like we saw over the weekend, if we get that in game 2, and then you're going back to Minnesota down 0-2, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And there's some matchup problems between these two teams. Like I said, they have the size advantage, the Timberwolves. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. Let me know in the comments. Like I said, tomorrow night in LA, game 2, that's 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be on TNT. So, when we come back from our first break, we will talk about the Knicks and their insane run that they went on towards the end of their game 1 victory against the Pistons. We'll talk about how that game went down, and we will talk about tonight's game a little bit because I will be there in person tonight. I will be at my very first NBA game tonight at Madison Square Garden. I'm really excited to experience that playoff atmosphere because that place is going to be nuts tonight. And yeah, we'll get into all that when we come back from our first break. And then, like I said, later in the third segment, we'll take a look at the other Game 1 matchups as well around both conferences, and we'll take a look back at the playing games from Friday and how those games went down. We'll do all that when we come back. Like I said, throughout the show, that'll be a little bit later, but we'll talk about the Knicks when we come back from our first break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.